about understanding that it is time for us to rebuild this party, to create a 21st century Democratic Party that really is a party that serves the people. As it relates to AB 84, very specifically, that was in many respects designed to be a workaround, to get around the contribution limits to the party and have another sort of avenue to funnel the money. When it comes to holding our elected officials accountable, there are many things that we can do as a party. One of the things that we talked about during the last campaign and during this campaign as well is doing away with automatic endorsements of incumbents. Every single elected official should have to stand for a vote, should have to stand on their record, should have to come before the endorsing body and make the case as to why they should once again get the party's endorsements. And one of the other things that all of our elected officials should do, and all of our candidates who want the endorsement of this party, they should actually have to read our Democratic Party platform. And they should have to affirm that they have read it and they agree with it, and if they don't, they should tell us what parts and why. We have to get back to a party that doesn't just have vague, value statements written on pieces of paper that really, in actuality, have no meaning. We really have to be that party that believes in having our elected officials who are there to serve us. And so I am all for bringing about the kinds of reform within this party that really reminds our elected officials that they serve at our pleasure, that they are there to do the work of the people, that they are there to use those positions to help our communities. And so that is something, quite frankly, that this party has not been for a long time, and it was not built that way. And so really the question is up to you all, the delegates to this party. Are you ready for the kind of change that really builds this party so that it is a party of the people, by the people, for the people, fighting on behalf of our democratic values in everything that we do? That question is before all of you, and I would again suggest that the party we have today is not that party. And I'm running to bring that party to California because I believe that this party can and should be doing more for everybody and should stand here in California as a model for the rest of the country to follow. I believe that, as the 5th largest economy in the world, here in California we don't follow trends, we set the trends. And this is an opportunity for us to set the trend for the rest of the country as to how we get back to the business of winning elections.
Thank you. Kimberly, I've got a somewhat elementary question for you. What is AB 84?
That was basically a bill that I think it was an assembly member up in the Bay Area who sponsored that. Basically, they wanted to create a workaround to be able to raise unlimited amounts of money for supporting candidates that did not have to go through the party. And this, I think, was because the party had been talking a lot, or at least the delegates had been talking a lot about the kind of money, the limits, and so forth. And so this really was sort of, in many respects, a golden parachute, a workaround, a loophole, so that they could raise unlimited amounts of money outside of the party.
Thank you. All right, Doraka, you're up.
So I actually think that there are thousands of people around this state that have been working for years under the umbrella of the Democratic Party to change their communities, to elect more better Democrats, and to hold them accountable. I know this because I've spent 15 years working with them. I think that people have been putting in time and effort to change the party, to reform it. Just a few years ago, every single delegate to the state party convention was appointed by elected officials. And it was insurgent activists, right, who came in and said that's not democratic, and first added delegates from the central committees, and then later created the ADEM process. I've been all around the state and talked to people who have developed incredibly sophisticated operations for doing voter turnout and for translating that into grassroots lobbying on issues. When I first became chair in Santa Barbara, one of the first things we did was actually adopt a county party platform that we could use to decide which Democrats to endorse in local races, right? Because at the end of the day, what we come together to do as a party and argue about is what it means to be a Democrat. And there are people all over the state who have been doing thankless, unsexy, unglamorous work. I'm running because I want to support that work, because I want to add to the number of people who do that, and I want to make the work of the people already doing it more effective. That's why I was the only leader in this party who gave testimony and got in the faces of our elected officials that came up with this idea of AB 84. Because they wanted to create party fundraising committees controlled just by the legislative leadership to endorse and support candidates, whether they got the Democratic Party's endorsement through our democratic process or not. We generated tens of thousands of phone calls from grassroots Democrats all over this state to defend our party and to try to get our leaders in Sacramento to drop this terrible idea. Sadly, at the end of the day, the only reason it didn't pass was because of revolt by Republican members against their own leadership. That energy, those were thousands of people who took action to defend this party from an attempted end run by elected officials. It's there. So I don't believe, actually, that the Democratic Party we want doesn't exist and that it has to be sort of built overnight. I actually think it's being built every day. It's being built by people who don't get a lot of attention. It's being built by people who don't get a lot of thank you. And it's being built against the dominant political culture in this country and in the state that says that being partisan is illegitimate. How many times have you been out working on a local race that said where people are like, oh, but it's a nonpartisan race, so I'm just going to vote for whoever, knowing that if Republicans take control of that city council or that school board, there's going to be reactionary policy that follows it and people are going to get hurt. God bless those people who push against that, who've been working to keep our local elections partisan, that nobody pays any attention to. God bless them, and I'm going to be their chair. And I'm going to be a chair that welcomes in new activists who've never heard about any of this and helps them to develop their skills and their power in the party so they become party activists and party leaders. I've watched, and in fact, I'm such a dork about this, I actually wrote my PhD dissertation about how social movements have transformed the Democratic Party. And guess what? Going back decades and decades, movements have started outside the party, come in, affected change, and so many of the things that we take for granted today, the caucuses, the endorsement process itself, all of those are victories by activists whose shoulders we stand on today. So I actually, I'll say right away, if I'm elected chair, my #1 job won't be fundraising. I'm going to hire an excellent fundraising team. We're going to develop a great strategy. We're going to do a lot more grassroots fundraising. But my #1 job is going to be the friend, the ally, the planner, the supporter, the experienced voice for anybody who wants to come into this party, build it in their community's interests, or in their community's image, and use it to fight for political power for the disenfranchised.
Kimberly, I've got a quick question for you. We've heard what Duraka's first priority would be in office. What would be yours? And then also if you have any response to Duraka's answer.
So my #1 priority, and for those of you who haven't had a chance to check out the website, I would encourage you to do so. Vote for Kimberly.org, for FOR, voteforkimberly.org. We have laid out the plan, our priorities, and our platform. I have 4 priorities. #1 is to address directly and squarely the culture change that we need to bring about in this party. I believe that we really cannot move forward as a party until we do that. There are real victims who suffered abuse and harm. We need to ensure that those victims are made whole to the extent that we are able to. We need to ensure that we are putting systems and processes in place to ensure that that kind of abuse never again happens in the name of the Democratic Party. To pretend like this didn't happen, to pretend like there is not a culture of bullying and harassing and retaliation is setting us up for failure in 2020. Let's be very clear. There are real legal and financial implications that this party is about to face. I believe that the best way to do that is by addressing that. What this party needs right now is a turnaround executive. Someone who can come in, help us to deal with the issues that we have facing us. Our brand and our reputation as Democrats have taken a hit. We need to know that. And also someone who can help to right the ship, to weather the storm, and to get us on the other side of 2020. So first and foremost, priority number one, dealing with the culture change that needs to be brought about. Having a chair who has the courage of her convictions, who will stand up and speak out and set the tone, the tenor, and the direction for how we are expected to behave as delegates to this party. Priority number two is ensuring that the electoral victories that we had in 2018, many of which were right down here, thank you to all of the on-the-ground organizing groups that worked in conjunction and collaboration with the local party to actually deliver those wins. Holding on to those seats in 2020 is priority number two, not just because we need to maintain the House, but because we need to get ready for the census as well. So priority number three is getting ready to welcome a presidential primary unlike any we have seen in at least a generation. Now that we've moved up our primary to March, it's important that California Democratic Party have its house in order. A big part of having its house in order is ensuring that we have a chair who will ensure that there is a level playing field for all of our candidates. That means having a chair who will take the lessons that we learned in 2016 and ensure that there is no favoritism, that we are not moving the ball, that every candidate and contender that comes through the state of California will be treated fairly. They will have an equal opportunity to advocate and speak to our voters, and having a chair that is neutral and objective is incredibly important. I've pledged that I will not be endorsing any presidential candidates before our primary. The people must have faith that the next chair of this party is ensuring a level playing field for all of our candidates. And then finally, priority number four is ensuring that we do everything we can here in California to take back the White House. We are the 5th largest economy in the world. We have a lot of heft, a lot of might, and a lot of muscle in this state. And it's time for us to harness that. Harness people, time, and money to help flip the states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida to take back the White House in 2020. Those are my 4 priorities. As the next chair of this party, I look forward to getting us through 2020 in one piece, ensuring that along this next 18 months, that we are keeping the tone and the vibration of this conversation high, not waiting until the other side of the primary when we're all bloodied and bruised, but reminding people to stay focused and positive on their candidate, to talk about the values that their candidate is espousing, as opposed to tearing other candidates down. So I'm excited about what lies ahead and the opportunities afforded this party right now, and looking forward again to continuing this conversation.
I'm going to give Rock a chance to list some of his priorities as well, but in light of some of your questions and some of your statements, I've got a question for you. And that is, regardless of who is the next chair of the California Democratic Party, will you continue your activism and support the party?
Yeah. Well, I think that people figured out I wasn't going to go quick last time. No, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I believe that this civics renaissance that we are experiencing right now is really because people are wanting more. They are looking for a house and a home to dedicate their time, talent, and treasure. And quite honestly, that is what the California Democratic Party should be. I will tell you, as someone who traveled to 50 out of 58 of the counties during the last election, I can tell you that this state is not just incredibly diverse and beautiful, but you can find every red state, every purple state, every rural state right here in California. It's an opportunity for us to be, in many respects, a petri dish, to help create roadmaps and blueprints for how we get back to the business of winning elections all across this country. And I'm looking forward to this party being everything that it can and should be, not just for California, but for the rest of the nation. California was born to lead, and I'm here to help lead us forward in that direction.
let you talk to us about some of your priorities, but I also want to make sure that we all understand you have the same position, that whoever is our next chair, we're all going to rally behind and support and continue our party efforts.
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing for 15 years. I'm going to continue to do it, which is to build the party. Any opportunity or chance I get to do that, I will continue that. So my platform is also available on my website, DeRocca4CDPchair.com. It's pretty extensive, goes into a whole bunch of specifics about reform and program, but it's really themed around three things. The first is reform, and of course, first and foremost, that has to be about reforming both our culture and structure. Now, I really learned firsthand how inadequate our structures were when a number of people came to me with credible allegations of really horrific and heartbreaking abuse by Chairman Bauman. And I had before me really only one option, and that was to file public charges against him that he could publicly refute, and then we would have a vote about whether he should remain chair at E-Board with like 300 people. So you had survivors reckoning with the fact that they would have to possibly convince 300 politicos of the truth of their statement, etc. It's also not a system, obviously, that affords people any kind of due process, right? So we need to change those structures. I've got several proposals about how to do that, including hiring a full-time and independent ombudsperson in the office, making every delegate sign a code of conduct so that we have a baseline to hold people accountable to. And the reason I think that's important is that we've been talking a lot, and it's good, that we're talking a lot about bullying and intimidation that goes sort of top to bottom in this organization, from the powerful, from elected officials, from people who are in a position to hire or not hire people. But there's also a lot of toxicity and harassment and just mistreatment that goes on among activists that drives a lot of people away from finding a political home here in the Democratic Party. We have to address that, and we have to hold one another accountable to that kind of behavior. And then the other piece of reform is, as I mentioned, right, every 5-6 years, there's been an influx of progressive activists, new activists into this party that have demanded change. And the trajectory has been, over decades, to open this party up, to make it more bottom up, to make the more democratic spaces in it more powerful, right? And I'm happy and proud to have been a part of that reform effort, but we need to continue that. For example, there are thousands and thousands of people in this state who share our values, who would love to be leaders in this party, but who are not able to, or not allowed to, because they're not registered voters. And they're not registered voters because they can't be, because they're not citizens, or they're not 18, or they're still under the thumb of the criminal justice system. We should change all of the rules in our party bylaws, and if necessary, change the election code to make sure that you can be a party officer, that you can serve as a delegate if you are an immigrant, or if there are other reasons why you're not eligible to vote. So that's one concrete example, but there's a lot more of specific reforms I'd like to make. So the first piece is reform. The second is advocacy, because here's the thing, we're here for issues, right? It may have been a particular candidate that got us engaged, whether that was Ellis Stevenson, or Howard Dean, or Barack Obama, or Bernie Sanders, whoever it was. There might have been a candidate. But at the end of the day, the reason we stick around is that we want to make this planet more sustainable. We want to make our society more just. And so we need to be able to retool. And I have a plan for changing the way that our staffing works, the way that our funding works. We need to retool in between elections into an advocacy organization. We need to be knocking on doors year-round, not just about candidates, but about the bills that we've endorsed, in order to encourage and pressure and demand that our elected officials follow through and actually make our platform law, and not just a piece of paper that gathers dust in a party office. So advocacy is the second main priority for my administration. And the last one is organizing. I will be the organizer-in-chief when it comes to my style of being a leader of this party. It's how I was as a county chair. It's how I will be as state party chair. And to me, organizing has a really, really huge sense of urgency, since we have the primary election coming up like basically tomorrow. It's like just right around the corner. And though it was so exciting to go all over the state, including in Orange County, but all the way up into Ventura, up into Northern California, and seeing these tremendous coalitional efforts behind flipping House seats. It was also heartbreaking, though, to see in so many of those field offices that if there was anything about local candidates, it was like a door hanger kind of languishing at the welcome desk. If I'm chair, that shit will stop. Every one of our coordinated campaigns has to be about a top to bottom effort to elect Democrats and hold them accountable at every level of government. That's the value added that we have as a party. That's what makes us different from any other, from a candidate campaign or Indivisible or any of these other groups, is that we work at every single level to both elect Democrats and hold them accountable. So those are my political priorities. They're all honed in the trenches, in grassroots organizing, and I look forward to being able to put them into practice as your chair.
Thank you. We're coming a little bit close to the end, and as part of this process, Annie asked delegates to submit questions. I will take one more question from the floor, but we did get an interesting question via email, and that is, please pick an adjective to describe yourself and explain. I thought it was actually kind of fun. So, Doraka, let's start with you.
Nerdy. And I'll explain that it's that I always want to know everything about something. So, you know, it wasn't enough for me to like learn how my club worked and get involved in the party. Like, I really felt this need to understand why. Because one thing I agree with completely that Kimberly said is that this party isn't designed to be a grassroots activist organization. It was designed both by voters and by politicians to be as weak as it possibly can, because unfortunately we have a long tradition in California going all the way back, here I go again as a nerd, going all the way back to the progressive era of trying to punish political parties when we think there's something wrong with parties. The top two primary, silly top two primary system being the most recent example. So I like to know exactly how things work. What's their history? How did, and I'm trained as a sociologist especially, so I don't take for granted any status quo. I always want to get underneath it and know how did we get here? Because to me that's the first step of undoing it, of moving forward, of changing it, of reforming it, is understanding how we got here. So I'm a big nerd, that's who I am, and that's how I act.
Thank you. Kimberly, adjective?
Yeah, I would say probably the nickname that I earned the last time around, and that is Feather Ruffler. We were the campaign that talked about the things that people dare not talk about, like reforming Proposition 13, like repealing Costa-Hawkins, like holding our elected officials accountable to the people, like doing away with automatic endorsements of incumbents, like investing not in mail and in TV ads, but instead investing money in community organizers who would organize all over the state of California. Not a couple months before an election, but 365 days out of the year. Being willing to roll up their sleeves and meet people where they're at the farmer's market, in their community, on the doorstep, around issues that impact their everyday life. So feather ruffler, because sometimes, or oftentimes, we need the feathers to be ruffled a little bit, to get the cobwebs out, to remind us of who we are, what we're about, and what we're doing this for. And so I will continue to ruffle feathers because I understand my definition of politics is using all of the money, influence, and heft to do good and to help others. We should be doing that in the name of our Democratic Party, and so I will continue to remind our elected officials that this is, at the end of the day, about people and our planet.
So we've got a question, we've got time for a question from the floor. Where is my independent picker? Annie.
Jesus raised his hand earlier. Question from Robin. We'd like to know of the plan we have to make the Democratic Party actually colorless. I am hearing all tonight that we're going to make it dark in color, and it's all fine with me because I want to be elected too. But I want to know how we're going to make it colorless. That will include genderless, mainly colorless. How we're going to include all our skin colors into the new Democratic Party.
I actually don't believe that we want to make it colorless. I believe that we want to see all of the beautiful diversity. I think it's important, especially as the Democratic Party, which claims the mantle of being the party of diversity, the party of people of color, the party of the LGBTQ community, the party of women, the party of our Native Americans, the party of young people, the party. If we are going to claim that mantle, then we really need to ensure that everything that we do is in that spirit. And so I don't think that we become colorless. I think that we embrace that diversity and we showcase that in everything that we do. Every single aspect of this party should look like California. And so ensuring that we have all of the beautiful colors and all of the beautiful genders and all of the beautiful diversity that makes California great is incredibly important. And as the next chair of this party, you can ensure that my administration, this party, at every single level, will look like the beautiful state of California. Woo!
I'll be happy to be post-race and post-color when the world is post-white supremacy and post-racism. In the meantime, it's got to be about not just representation, but also like really putting our resources and our shoe leather where our mouth is, and confronting the structures that uphold white supremacy in this country and in the state. So we do that, and we win racism, then we can talk about being post-color.
So we have 4 more minutes. I'm going to take one more question. Ashley?
I have a question. I guess, Duraka, it would be your turn to answer it, but I would like to know, what do you think are the 3 attributes or accomplishments that you're most impressed with of your opponent? And I'd like her to answer the same thing about you.
I'm going to ask you guys both to keep your answers to under 2 minutes, please.
I think that Kimberly Ellis is one of the sharpest defenders and advocates for equality that we have in the state of California. I have nothing but respect for the work that she did in Emerge. It's an organization or program that I have tremendous respect for. I've known a lot of people and continue to encourage people to go through it, as I just did earlier today. So I think she's very, very smart, and that's enabled her to be very effective in the things that she's attempted to do or worked to do to move the ball forward, to address the absolutely inexcusable gap between the role that women play and the weight that women have in the population and the power that women are able to or allowed to wield in the political arena, which is one of the great struggles of our time. And one of the things that every human being needs to be engaged in. So I really look to her for leadership in that, and I think she's done a tremendous job in moving that ball forward. And I'm always impressed and continually re-impressed with the thoughtfulness and the intelligence that backs up that community.
Question. Kimberly.
Well, I am grateful to Duraka for his long-term commitment to activism in this party. The party building that he has done, not just in Santa Barbara County, but for the party, on behalf of the party. His ability to inspire people through his great oratory skills is something that I appreciate, and really how I first came to know who he was that great speech that he gave at one of our conventions. And also, I think his commitment to really building a party that is more reflective of grassroots and grassroots activism. And those are things that he has done for years that cannot be denied. I'm grateful to his service to this party and look forward to working with him in the future.
We got started a couple of minutes late, so I'm going to let them both have a couple minutes each to do a closing statement, why we should vote for you, and there you go, 2 minutes. And let's start with Draka.
I really love this party, and I love this party for 2 big reasons that I've hinted at, but I really want to underline. The first is that democracy in America is really jaundiced. It's really limited. It's superficial, right? We vote every couple of years for people that we've only seen on TV, and that's it. We go home, maybe argue about it on Facebook. But here in this party is one of those rare spaces in our society that allows people to engage and have power in society on a deeper level. Those things that can be so bruising or so tedious, as I'm sure a lot of people felt at last night's Central Committee meeting, or if you've ever been to any Central Committee meeting, that work, that slow work of democracy, where we're deciding where we're going to be on a decision by the Irvine City Council about housing, when we're deciding about which candidate from a whole range of candidates we're going to support, when we're deciding what our position is going to be on a ballot measure, or we're deciding what's going to be in our platform. What we're actually doing is debating and fighting out what it means to be a Democrat. Because when ordinary voters go to the polling place and they vote for people, there's no way to really look into the soul of candidates. Remember, I voted for how am I blanking his name? John Edwards, thank you. So I voted for John Edwards. I certainly hadn't looked into his soul and knew what he was all about as a human being. I based it on the millions of dollars of consultant work that gets done to train people to look like what you want to see out of them as candidates, right? But what is the piece of information that people have when they go to the polling place that's the most meaningful? It's what party somebody's in. It's what party is supporting that candidate. That's the best way to predict how someone will vote in Congress or the legislature. Better than race, better than gender, better than where someone's from. But for a voter to be able to count, that when they go and vote for someone with a D next to the name, that means that they're pro-environment, it means they're pro-teacher, it means they're against school privatization, it means they're going to stand up for people of color, it means they're going to say no to police violence, it means those things. But we're the ones that do the work and have the fights and have the arguments, right, that actually puts content in them, that makes it true that that's what it means to be a Democrat. So everything I've done as a volunteer for decades has been to build and defend that space. And I defend it from friends of mine on the left who come in and are like, ah, you're all just a bunch of corrupt jerks, burn it all down. I defend it from the elected officials who think they know better than us all the time and want to devote themselves their own party committees, right? And I defend it from people, activists, who third-party us all the time and talk about those damn Democrats, those damn Democrats. And I'm like, you're a Democrat, we're all Democrats, we're Democrats, we're the party. I am the we are the party candidate. I'm not going to get elected and solve every problem. I'm not going to get elected and overnight change the really broken way that campaigns and politics is funded. I'm going to get elected and I'm going to work my ass off to support the work you are already doing to build your party and your community, to help you get better at it, to help you get more effective at it, to help you find other friends that are doing it in other parts of the state, and frankly, other parts of the country. I'll be your organizer-in-chief. Thank you very much.
So you went 4 minutes. I said 2. It's like there are a bunch of politicians up here. All right, Kimberly, you get 4 minutes.
I'll do it in 2. I first of all want to thank everybody for being with us in Conversation and Community this evening. Thank you to Annie for your amazing organization of tonight. To all of the hosts and co-organizers, thank you as well. It has been my great honor to be here tonight. I think it's really, really important that we first and foremost understand the critical time that the California Democratic Party finds itself in. We are reeling still, in many respects, from the election in 2016 that really fractured the party. We are coming off historic wins in 2018 that were stitched together by an incredible collaboration between and amongst our broader community. We are preparing to try to take back the White House in 2020. And we have a party that has a brand and reputation party here in this state. So it's really important that we be very clear about the challenge ahead. Really clear in understanding what this party needs right now is a turnaround executive. As someone who can come in, help us deal with the very real financial and legal challenges we will be facing. Steady the ship, help us weather the storm, and get to calmer waters on the other side of 2020. I think it's really important that we also understand what the role of the chair of this party is. The role of the party chair is threefold. Number one, they raise money to support the operational and programmatic budget of the party. Number two, they are the official spokesperson of all California Democrats. For all intents and purposes, they are the face, the soul, and the spirit of this party that will go on TV and talk to the media about our collective values.